The moment Diplo opened his mouth and described a project by BTS as the craziest album ever made, the entire global music industry seemed to freeze for a split second, before erupting into a storm of speculation, excitement, disbelief, and pure emotional chaos. What did he mean by craziest? Was it about the sound, the concept, the scale, or something far deeper that the world had not yet fully grasped? Because when someone like Diplo, an artist who has spent decades shaping global sound, collaborating with some of the biggest names across continents, and redefining genres, uses words that bold, it is never casual. It is never empty hype. It is a signal, a warning, a promise. And for millions of fans worldwide, especially the ever-watchful army, it felt like the beginning of something massive, something that could once again shift the very foundation of modern pop music. Rumors had already been swirling for months about BTS preparing a comeback that would transcend anything they had ever done before. Whispers of a project deeply rooted in Korean identity, yet designed for global resonance. A sonic experience that would merge tradition with cutting-edge production. A narrative-driven album that wasn't just meant to be heard, but felt, questioned, and lived through. And then came the name that tied everything together like a thread pulled tight across history and modernity. Arirang. The word alone carries emotional weight. Arirang is not just a song, it is a symbol. A cultural heartbeat of Korea, echoing centuries of pain, resilience, hope, and unity. For BTS to build an entire project around that concept already suggested something monumental. But when Diplo entered the conversation and called it the craziest album ever, the scale of anticipation expanded beyond imagination. Insiders began to leak fragments of information, never enough to confirm anything, but always enough to ignite curiosity. There were talks of unconventional song structures, of tracks that refused to follow traditional formats. Songs that didn't rely on predictable hooks or safe melodies. Instead, they were described as evolving soundscapes, shifting moods, unexpected transitions, and emotional crescendos that felt more like cinematic journeys than typical pop tracks. Some sources claimed that one track alone went through over 50 different versions before reaching its final form. Another hinted at a song that changes tempo multiple times, blending orchestral elements with electronic distortion and traditional Korean instruments. It sounded chaotic, unpredictable, almost impossible to imagine. And yet, if anyone could make it work, it would be BTS. Because BTS has never been afraid of risk. From their earliest days, they challenged industry expectations, refusing to conform to a single identity. They told stories that others avoided. They addressed emotions that many were too afraid to express. And as they grew into global icons, their willingness to experiment only intensified. Each album became a new chapter, a new exploration, a new reinvention of what music could be. But this time felt different. This time, it wasn't just evolution. It felt like a complete transformation that Diplo's involvement added another layer of intrigue. Known for his genre-blending style and fearless approach to production, his collaboration with BTS suggested a fusion of ideas that could break conventional boundaries. But even he seemed overwhelmed by the project. In one statement that quickly went viral across social media platforms, he reportedly said that working on this album pushed him beyond his own creative limits. That it forced him to rethink everything he thought he knew about music. That it wasn't just an album, it was an experience. Those words spread like wildfire. Fans dissected every sentence, analyzing the meaning behind his description. What does it take for someone like Diplo to feel creatively challenged? What kind of sound could push a veteran producer into unfamiliar territory? And what exactly had BTS created that made him react with such intensity? Speculation turned into theories. Theories turned into expectations. And expectations grew into something almost impossible to contain. Meanwhile, BTS remained silent. No official tracklist. No teaser images. No confirmed release date. Just an eerie, deliberate quiet that only fueled the anticipation further. It was as if they were allowing the world to build its own imagination, only to later shatter it with something even bigger than anyone had predicted. The silence became part of the story, and then, small details began to emerge. A cryptic image posted online, featuring abstract patterns resembling traditional Korean art. a short audio clip that lasted only a few seconds, blending haunting vocals with distant instrumental echoes. A mysterious countdown that appeared on a website before disappearing without explanation. Each clue felt intentional, carefully placed, designed to provoke emotion rather than provide answers. Fans stayed awake for hours, refreshing pages, decoding symbols, connecting dots that may or may not have existed. Entire communities formed around analyzing every possible hint. It was no longer just about music. It had become a global puzzle. And at the center of it all was that one phrase, the craziest album ever made. As days turned into weeks, the phrase began to take on a life of its own. Media outlets picked it up, amplifying its impact. Headlines questioned whether BTS was about to redefine the music industry once again. Critics debated whether such a bold claim could realistically be lived up to. Skeptics wondered if it was simply clever marketing, but those who knew BTS weren't so quick to doubt, because they had seen this before. They had seen BTS take risks that others avoided and succeed. They had seen them break records that seemed unbreakable. They had seen them turn personal stories into universal anthems. They had seen them stand on global stages and command attention not just through performance, but through authenticity. And now, with Arirang, it felt like everything they had done before was leading to this moment, that a culmination, that a statement, that a declaration that they were ready to push even further. Industry insiders began to speculate about the album's potential impact. Some predicted it would dominate charts worldwide. Others believed it could influence a new wave of artists to embrace cultural identity in a more profound way. There were even discussions about whether this project could blur the lines between mainstream music and experimental art. Because that was the real question. Was this still an album, or something more? Diplo's words suggested the latter. And as the anticipation continued to build, one thing became clear. Whatever BTS was about to release, the world was not ready. The energy surrounding the project reached a level rarely seen in modern music. Social media platforms were flooded with discussions, predictions, and emotional reactions. Every small update, every rumor, every subtle hint became a trending topic within minutes. The phrase "craziest album ever" was no longer just a description. It had become a global phenomenon, a symbol of expectation that hovered over the industry like a storm waiting to break. And yet, beneath all the excitement, there was also a sense of uncertainty, because with expectations that high, the risk of disappointment always exists. Could any album truly live up to such a bold claim? Could BTS really deliver something that would justify the words of someone like Diplo? Or was this all building toward a moment that would divide audiences rather than unite them? No one knew for sure. But one thing was undeniable. The world was watching. And when the moment finally arrived, when the first note of Arirang would echo across speakers around the globe, it wouldn't just be a release, that it would be an event, that a moment frozen in time, that a test of creativity, identity, and artistic courage. And perhaps, just perhaps, the beginning of a new era in music.